Hello, Comic Art Live. Welcome back to A Page I Love. This is Kevin Sharp. I'm joined today by writer and artist Terry Moore, creator of Strangers in Paradise, of course, and also has a new art book out that we will circle back to at the end. Terry, you have a Comic Art Fans gallery, so I won't say welcome to Comic Art Fans, but I'll say welcome to the show. Happy to have you.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to be talking about art.
You're going with a well-known series, but it's an interesting kind of, I almost want to say a deep dive underneath the umbrella of a big name comic book. You own this entire short story. So please tell us the series we're talking about today.
Okay, what I have in front of me today is a page of original art from Charles Vess, and it's from Sandman number 62. It's an 8-page story in the middle of that issue. It's one of those amazing things. I was only my second year at San Diego. It was like 1995 or 96. My wife was with me. Set up next to us was Charles Vess. He had just finished the story. I guess it had come out within the last previous 12 months, and it was gorgeous. And my wife has a real eye for art. And she said, Charles, I want to buy these. And he offered her a super low price right away because they had become fast friends. And she said, no, 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 leave them here on the table. And if they don't sell, I'll buy them. So at the end on Sunday evening, when we were all packing up, she went over. My goodness, those pages were still there. That's how we got these pages, right from the source. They never hit the public market. Robin grabbed them before they went anywhere. They went straight from Charles's portfolio and Neil's hands to her hands.
Because the audience that is listening to us right now is made up of comic art collectors, I have to put you on the spot in case you remember. What was the price tag on these pages?
There's going to be a lot of screaming. Here comes the screaming.
Everybody in this hobby has a thick bark, so I think we're ready.
Charles had them marked for $150 a page. He offered them to Robin for $100 a page. She
Hmm.
said, no, I have to pay your asking price. I can't do that to you. He was in his prime. And the reason why I wanted to talk about this page in particular was not because of the wonderful opportunity to get them, but they're stunning. The penmanship is unbelievable. There's no cross hatching, but there's complete tone of light and shadow. And unfortunately, if you've only seen the comic, you haven't seen this art.
You know, it's interesting looking back at this story for the first time in years. This strikes me almost like pages from a, I don't want to say a children's storybook dropped into the middle of a comic book. What is it about this particular page that you responded to?
It's Charles's portrayal of form, light and shadow without any hard lines. There's not a single hard line anywhere in this page. The trees are not straight lines drawn with a micron or a fat line drawn with a brush. This is a super fine pinpoint. I think it's a Hunt 102. And he took his time and did short strokes and built it up just like nature. So his ink work is a lot like the molecular structure of all this organic stuff in the picture, where it's a bunch of short little things that flow in a common direction to make a form and a flow and a wave. And whether it's thick or light depends on how the light hits it. If you look at the ground, the shadow of the trees, the dark spot on the ground, is not formed with an ink brush or splats of black. It is the thin lines crossing over each other thick enough to get the shadow. That's exactly how nature works. It's not a cartoon rendering or a 2D rendering or a mirror rendering. He's really kind of taken his shoes off, put his feet on the earth, and started portraying these organic shapes with organic type lines. If you look at the little leaves on the vines and up in the tree, and then the vine that crawls up in there, look at the shading from the dark side of the tree to the light side of the tree. And then, and the back of the man is all formed with those kind of same strokes. There is a little bit of cross hatching in there, but mostly it's all directional line work. And if you look past the shadow of where the man stands and look across the river there, You see the light where the light hits the other side, and it's brilliant. It pops because of the shadow that Charles put into the foreground. Unfortunately, he turns it over to a comic book company in the mid 90s, and they flat color it like it's 1962. So it's got horrible colors. And when it's printed in that printing process back in the day with the newsprint paper, it all blocked up. So when you look at it on the comic book page, it's not at all impressive. It looks like, oh, yeah, I know a lot of people that can draw that. But when you look at the original art, you go, oh, no, hell, that's Charles Vess.
What was the order? Reading Sandman or seeing the art in the portfolio first?
I seen the art in the portfolio. I was just gobsmacked. I had never been exposed to great illustrator art before. I had come from comic strips. Everything's a wackadoodle in comic strips. This was so far over my head at the time. I was just speechless. I mean, I was standing in the presence of an angel, you know.
Should we shout out the lettering here for while we're on the page?
Oh, yes, that's another thing. This is hand lettered by Charles in his Charles Vess lettering style. Every page is hand lettered on there. The only thing that has any type of paste on was a script correction and the capital letter at the start of a sentence. He had designed his own alphabet. And so he had had that printed out at a local print shop, and he would cut it and paste it onto the lettering box on the left and then hand letter the rest of it.
Well, I think we can all take a moment here in the audience and just bask in the fact that you own a complete Sandman story, and we just won't mention the price again. But it must be quite a pleasure to look up at your wall and just be able to see these pages laid out.
Every time I've had a comic book friend walk in, they stop dead in their tracks right there and stare at it for a minute. You know, it's like, oh, I need a minute. So that's how you can tell the comic book people when they walk in the house. And I'd like to invite you all to come over and take a look. We'll have
Well,
a Dr. Pepper and look at the vest.
in the meantime, anybody who would like to see the story, you can look at Terry's Comic Art Fans Gallery. I believe all the pages are shown on there
Mhm.
on this in the framed form. So let's transition over to your work now. Please tell the viewers about your new art book and where they can find it and kind of what the overall quote unquote vision is of this.
My career started in the 90s, the early 90s. And I've done a lot of series, self-published series since then. So I had a ton of comic book single issue covers that are lost to history. They're all sold out, long gone. So I had the idea, let's collect all the single issue covers into one book. And I launched a Kickstarter recently and it funded. So we're making this big fat book that has 300 covers in their full color version without the titles on there. They're running them generic so you can see the art. The titles are not covering them up. So yeah, it's the covers from every one of my books, all my single issue comics and everything, including the variants. The Backerkit for this is still open. You can still go find it and get in on it. You know, when you're on a schedule with Diamond Comics or any of the solicitors, they want a cover art several months in advance. Well, when I was doing things like Strangers in Paradise, there were a lot of cliffhangers. And I didn't want to spoil it with a cover that would give it away. So I did these red herring dummy covers, fake out covers. And this covers book collects the fake out covers.
Great. Well, and people can find that on Backerkit as of now when this is airing. Terry, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thanks again for joining us.
Thank you, man. It's so I will talk all day about art. Love it. Thank you.